Hey guys, this is Issues with Toddy One Skip. I am Toddy One Skip. You're not. I am. And that works good because it's Issues with Toddy One Skip. One of us has to be Toddy One Skip, and it would be me. Guys, it's 10:46 a.m. Eastern Standard Time this lovely Saturday. That's supposed to rain. It has rained, but then the sun just peeked out, but it went away again. I don't know what's going on. Guys, I figured that I would. There's a lot of talk about kiosks. There's a lot of talk about commissary. So I can honestly tell you that the kiosk is the device, I would assume. Yes, because the commissary is the place where you order from, and they're the people that in that commissary that give you the items. Let me tell you what it was like way back when the dinosaurs were toting the shit. And that would be in the late 80s to mid 90s, mid to late 90s. Let's talk about that, guys. So, when I became commissary manager, first and foremost, it was after I had already worked for this company. So, it was a private company that I worked for, and they had this account in the account that they had at first was actually the kitchen. So everybody that worked under me, everybody that I gave direction to was an inmate, and they were a trustee. Now a trustee is an inmate that they get paid for their job. Very minimal, but they get paid for the job. They get perks from the job, like they would get extra food, extra trays. People want that for not just that, but they want to get out of the cell. They want to get out of the cell. They want to do something, but they also want to have access to fucking food. And they also want to make some money so that they can get stuff on their own on the commissary so that they could actually, if need be, start a hustle. So I watched when you became in the kitchen, first and foremost, when you worked in the kitchen, you started at the dish machine. That's where you started. And then you went to other jobs, such as, like I had said before, like a conveyor belt. Not literally a conveyor belt. Guys, 100 years ago, when there was flying dinosaurs or flying dragons that would take people to places, they would give you meals on airplanes, and they would be in these really bulky trays, because they were made to keep certain parts of the tray cold and certain parts of the tray hot. You would have a line. So the food, you'd bring the food, it'd come from the dish machine. They'd stack them in tens. They'd put them out there. Everybody would put in whatever it is they were putting in. So if somebody was putting in mashed potatoes, that same person put in mashed potatoes 400 times. Okay. If they put in green beans 400 times. Chicken, beef, whatever the main protein was, and then the dessert. Okay. So then they stacked the tray on top of it, and they made them in tens. They strapped them up, and they put them on trolleys, and you push the trolley through the jail. Because in the county jail, both of them, the new one and the old one, they did not eat in a common area. They did not eat in a cafeteria. The trays were delivered to the cell blocks or to the pods at the time. So in the older jail, there were cell blocks. There was never more than, I think, 13 in one. And usually it was more like 6 or 7. When the new jail, there were pods. So there were much more people living in the cell block. Hang on a second. There was much more people living in the cell block. As far as inmates go, there'd be 2 tiers. And in the middle of that cell block, they were 2-tiered, and they tend to have 2 people in each little block. So maybe there'd be 40 people in one pod. Okay. So that was the new jail. And there weren't so much the bars as much as there were glass and concrete and steel, So, but not so much the bars. You gave the meals, and not only the meals, but you gave the commissary in what you guys have seen as like a slit inside of either glass or inside of the steel part of the door. Now, when I was doing commissary, I was the only person that could take commissary to people that were in the shoe. So that's special housing unit, that's solitary confinement. That was either for their own protection or for punishment. Had nothing to do with why they were there, but they were still entitled to commissary. So if anything else, they were entitled to commissary that, soap and hygiene. You couldn't take that away from them. So they got their commissary once a week, and I had to go over the commissary items with them. There wasn't a deputy or a CO or anybody that would hand them the commissary items. It was me and that inmate, and it was the slit there. So a lot of times I'm like looking below, seeing them, because that's the only place that I could see them and actually have a conversation and hear them. And in that room, in the new jail, that was again in a tier, but they wouldn't come out at the same time. In general population, there were still pods, but the inmates were able to come out at the same time, and there was more of a common area. They called that area the beach. I don't know why they called it the beach. I don't know why, because they lounged out there, they hung out there. That was the common area. So that's what they called it in the Arlington County Jail. In the new jail, they called it the Arlington Hilton, period. That was the jail. It was brand spanking new. It didn't really look like a jail per se. So that's what I'm saying. When people lose, like I was saying, when you got a job in the kitchen, which was something you wanted, or you wanted a job in the commissary, you wanted a job in the laundry, maybe, because that could be a good hustle for you. You could iron people's shit, worker shit, they get clean stuff, new stuff anytime it comes in. You got something going, you have something going. And you also get good time. So I think I don't remember what the denomination was, as far as they got so much good time for so many days work. I don't remember what it was, to be honest with you. People that went from doing the dishes to cook, and cook was the prime position. That was a position that demanded respect. You were top dog if you were the cook in the kitchen. You ran the show, basically, if you were the cook in the kitchen. You told people what to do. You delegated, man. And people looked up to you. And it was tough. It's tough to get one of those positions. You have to have talent as a cook, or you have to have fucking excellent character, because that's a trustworthy position for sure, for sure. So, one of the cooks, he was a morning cook. He was a little Spanish guy. His name was Rene. I remember he got out in the middle of winter, went across the street. He got out, and the first thing he did, he went across the street and he threw a brick in the window across the street, because he had nowhere to go when he got out, and it's cold. And where he was, 3 meals and a hot place to lay his head, and he had friends. He was institutionalized. So, and if you can get commissary on top of that, and that's fine with you, and you're a cook in there, that's more respect than you probably ever got on the outside. And that's enough for you. So you see what I'm saying? There's some times when this is not like so much of a punishment per se. So when you got commissary, first of all, commissary was always capped at so much. You can only have so much of this, you can only have so much. And if they found that you had more of either the dollar amount or the product amount, then you had explaining to do, which you never won anyway. So you were either extorting from somebody, or gambling, or kicking the shit out of somebody and getting their commissary. So you had to, and they stayed on top. They spun the cells a lot at the jail that I worked at. I'll be honest with you, they did spin the cells a lot. But when you'd go through the hallway with your commissary, like the commissary was inside of like a laundry cart, and inside that laundry cart were bags that were tied up that had people's commissary in them. And you went over the commissary with each and every inmate. You went up to the glass, they lined up. You were inside of a little area, like just you and your cart and another person helping you out, or maybe another person, maybe a few people helping you out, because sometimes there'd be as much as 60, 70 people in a cell block. And you gave the commissary to them, but you have to go over each and every item because there's always like, yo, miss, yeah, there should have been 5 of those root beer barrels, and you guys gave me 4. Or, that thing that you gave me, what thing? That thing, it doesn't work. So you get all this shit. It was always, but whenever you'd go through the hallway with your little it was bigger than little. It was the laundry basket thing with all the crap in it. Everybody got out of the way. Yo, man, make room. That's commissary. Where are you going, miss? Where are you going? Yo, miss, I need to talk to you about something. My radio's not working. That actually did happen. That's how I met Jen. Having commissary and looking forward to that each week is almost like Christmas. It's almost like getting mail. And, it's what do you have to look forward to? Especially if you are staying in a cell block where you're inside that cell block at least 23 hours a day and out one, which they very rarely, I mean, everybody is so tight right now. Everybody is so tight when it comes to employment that it's not easy enough staff to accommodate these inmates. It's just not. So sometimes they're in there a longer period of time. And if something happens pops off in the jail and there's a shutdown, that makes it even easier on the deputies or the COs. Where I worked, the COs were deputies. They're actually deputy sheriffs in Arlington County. They're the ones that locked up the inmates. The people that, were there to counsel and to teach like jobs and stuff like that. We also did Meals on Wheels. Like, so you're actually giving somebody the opportunity to learn a trade when they get out. And so, and there was counseling, and there is a finesse with that, because every week you did your fucking audit with your commissary, and you're like, because you're working with thieves, you're working with criminals. I worked with thieves. So, that, but I was pretty generous with things as well. If something was broken, come on, man. Of course I gave my shit away. And I would give some stuff away just to say, hey, thank you. And I always said, hey, thank you. And that's like really important. That's really important to show respect, because a lot of the times the inmates that worked with me, they got caught doing something that I was able to walk away from. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had my drug problem. I'm so glad I never got busted for it, but I could have been. So, and those are most of the people that I worked with. There was a couple hardened bad boys that I worked with that I shouldn't have been working with. And that was a real dumb move by somebody. But anyway, so that's the way the commissary worked. They'd place the order, how many things, whatever they were allowed to have. And we'd do the order one by one, go around the commissary room with the bag and put the items in there. That's what the inmates did. The employees, the inmates, that's what they did. And then we'd do certain cell blocks one day and do the next cell blocks the next day. And then the third day was when we'd do things like the SHU, special housing unit, or medical, or whatever else might be, quarantine, whatever else might be. Whatever I did on Monday, I did on Thursday, and whatever I did on Tuesday, I did on Friday. And on Saturday and Sunday, there just wasn't any commissary. That was it. It was basically 9 to 5, working in a jail. And when I worked the kitchen, it was totally different ball game, totally different. Yeah, a lot more inmates to look after and knives. But anyway, guys, so that's what it was like. And that's what it's so important to have things there to kind of make you more comfortable. When we got tennis shoes, like I was telling this in the last story and I cut myself off. When we got tennis shoes back in the day, so no lie, I'd go to Payless. Does anybody remember Payless? Let me see your hands. I'd go to Payless and buy the tennis shoes because I think there were $25. We could charge $25, not anymore, not any higher. If they wanted things like Nikes and shit like that, they had to get them through the catalog. And, but most of them got them Bobos. We call them Bobos, but sometimes they like the look of the Bobos, so, But the kitchen tore them up. The kitchen tore them up. But if they were the cooks, like my boss actually bought them some good shoes, ones that would last and stuff, because this is a backbone of the kitchen where those cooks. So anyway, guys, I thought I would share with you what it was like working in the commissary at the jail and dealing with certain inmates. And a lot of times the inmates were great. So a lot of times you did get people trying to tell you, no, you miscounted. That's what you're there doing. You're counting it out like that. You're not turning your back, you're counting it out like that in front of them, and they have to sign it. That's what it became. And if they continued on with that bullshit, then they would have got a 1 day a week, because like you just can't do anything more. And yeah, then once a week we did the audit, which was the same time that we did those other little cells like the shoe and infirmary and stuff like that. So that was it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. So that's why Wade Wilson just can't wait to become Santa Claus. Here comes Santa Claus. Now, how it is in prison, it's a different ball game there, because they didn't even allow smoking in any way, shape, or form in the jail system. So I think in prison they allow at least smokeless tobacco, but I don't think they do in county. I just don't. They didn't where I worked. They didn't. As a matter of fact, I was working in the jails in the kitchen when they went to non-smoking, and what my boss did was we gave them popcorn. Like we started. First of all, we broke it down when we were doing the commissary. I don't think we had the commissary at that time. We didn't have that account, but I know like that it started with they could buy a carton a week or something like that, and then it was 9 a week, and then it was 8 a week, 7 a week, and then it went like that. And then towards when it got to like 5 packs a week and such, we started with the popcorn and continued with it like that. We tried, you know what I'm saying? I'd still walk into the deep freeze and it'd smell like smoke. I ain't lying. I'd go get a box of something and there'd be cigarettes in it. So that's just the way, you're not always going to be smarter than everybody in the room. There's 21 male inmates. I just, I can't be smarter than all of them. And that's all right. That's okay. All right, guys, this is Issues with Toddy One Skip, bringing back a little nostalgia. So don't give Wade Wilson shit. And Stefan Stearns, he should choke on his root beer barrels. That's a horrible thing to say, but I don't like him. All right, guys. Be better today than you were yesterday. Not half as good as you'll be tomorrow. Always be kind. Always be kind.